flew off against each other, and the F-16 won, entering service in 1979. But this was not the first time a plane has come along to reverse a trend in the evolution of the fighter plane. In World War II, there was another, lesser-known one, the Bell XP-77. The XP-77 came to be known by some as the American Zero. It gained this title because of its lightness of construction and high degree of maneuverability. But with its long engine cowling, short wingspan and cockpit positioned well to the rear, it also evokes memory of the racing monoplanes from aviation's golden age, the 1930s. It had tricycle landing gear and was very much smaller than other fighters of the day, both in weight and overall dimensions. Even before America became involved in World War II, the Army Air Force decided to explore the possibilities of a departure in fighter design. They wanted to see if it was possible to build an ultra-light fighter. It was also to be faster than any other fighter then in service, and highly maneuverable. But that was not all. It was not to be built of the same materials that made up the bulk of the fighters of the time. The military was aware of the possibility of a shortage of metals, particularly aluminium, and called for a fighter that was built of wood. In late 1941, Robert Woods, Bell's chief designer, confronted the problem, and within 6 months he'd come up with the XP-77 concept. The XP-77's light structure was to be built of wood, but it was to have a metal laminate skin. Wood's design had an extremely long nose, with the pilot well back, and the tricycle landing gear gave much improved visibility for taxi, takeoff and landing. Because of its light weight, under 3,000 pounds empty, it was expected that the XP-77 could give high performance with a relatively small engine. The supercharged 12-cylinder inverted V-Ranger engine was chosen. With its 500 horsepower output, it should have been able to give the XP-77 a top speed of around 410 miles an hour at 27,000 feet. These performance figures were impressive, and in May 1942 the USAAF placed an order for 25. But there was a delay in the supply of the Ranger supercharged engine, and the Army Air Force's order was reduced to 6 aircraft to be fitted with an unsupercharged version. The change in engine would inevitably lead to a loss in performance, particularly at high altitude, and then another problem emerged. The project experienced delays, and in turn this led to a further reduction in orders. Only 2 aircraft were now to be built. By this time, American pilots in combat in the Pacific had become all too familiar with the Japanese Zero fighter. With its high power and light construction, the Zero was a formidable dogfighter, and few American pilots were willing to engage it in direct combat. Supporters of the XP-77 project saw it as a potential opponent for the Zero, and there was a school of thought which held that in the event of a Japanese invasion, the XP-77 would also be there to engage in close combat against the awesome Japanese fighters. But time and circumstances prevented the development of any such scenario. By the time the XP-77 eventually took to the air, any possibility of a Japanese invasion of America had long since disappeared. And after those first flights in May 1944, all hope of a revolution in fighter design and construction ceased. They were certainly nimble, as predicted, but the unsupercharged Ranger engine gave disappointing performance. It was not to be the fate of the XP-77 to replace the P-51s and P-47s in their struggle to match the nimble performance of the Zero, because when the P-77's performance was measured, it was capable of a top speed of only 330 miles an hour at 4,000 feet. The performance gap was too great to be overcome. By now, it was clear also there would be no shortage of aluminium, and in the last weeks of 1944, the P-77 project was abandoned. To romantics, the XP-77 looks like an opportunity lost, and there's no doubt that a supply of war surplus P-77s would have found a ready market as sport planes for the post-war enthusiast.